Dear viewers, this story is about a female Las Vegas nurse. She walked into room 412 thinking it was just another patient on her shift, but what started as routine care soon turned into stolen glances, late-night talks, and something no hospital policy could explain. There was something about him, the way he looked at her like he already knew her heart. And there was something about her, the way she stayed even after her shift ended. What they shared was quiet, unspoken, but fate had its own plans. Subscribe now, turn on the notification bell, and comment where you're watching from because this story will shake your soul. Let's begin the story. Morning at the hospital was always busy. Nurses moved fast, charts shuffled, and the smell of disinfectant hung in the air. Destiny walked down the corridor with her tray of medicines, her name tag swinging lightly as she moved. She had been a nurse here in Las Vegas for just over a year. At only 22, she was still young, but she had learned how to keep calm under pressure. Her job meant more to her than a paycheck. She cared for her patients, listened to their stories, and treated them with respect. Many people noticed her warm smile, her smooth skin, her slim but curvy figure. Some noticed her for the wrong reasons, but she kept things professional. She didn't mix work with romance. At least that was what she told herself before Jerome. Jerome was a 30-year-old Black American man who had been admitted 2 months ago with a heart condition. The story of his accident had reached everyone in the ward, a crash that killed his entire family, mother, father, siblings, leaving him the only survivor. Since then, he had been in and out of tests, treatments, and moments of quiet reflection. The first time Destiny walked into his room, she noticed how different he was from some patients. He didn't complain or act helpless. He greeted her with a calm good morning and looked her directly in the eyes. Not in a way that made her uncomfortable, but in a way that made her feel like her presence mattered. One afternoon, she came in with another nurse, Maria, to give him his medication. Jerome smiled at both of them, then cracked a light joke about the air vents staring at him all day. Destiny couldn't help but laugh. Something about him stayed in her mind even after she left the room. Over the next few weeks, she noticed how talking to him felt easy. He was intelligent, funny, and polite. Even on days when his condition was clearly wearing him down, he still made her smile. But Destiny kept reminding herself, he's a patient, and I'm his nurse. One afternoon, the ward was short-staffed. Destiny had to take on extra rooms. By the time she got to Jerome, she was late with his pain meds. He didn't complain. Instead, he looked at her and said, "You look tired. You should sit for a minute." She told him she couldn't, but something about the chair next to his bed made her stop. She sat for just a moment, and he began telling her a story about his father teaching him how to fix a loose cabinet with nothing but a butter knife. She could picture it. 2 people in a small kitchen making do with what they had. When she stood up to leave, Jerome reached out and held her hand. His palm was warm, his touch gentle but certain. "Let go, Jerome," she said quietly, though her voice wasn't harsh. "I'm sorry," he replied, releasing her hand. "I just need to tell you something important. Not now, later." He reached under his pillow and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He placed it in her hand like it was fragile. "Read it when you're alone," he said. "And please don't show anyone." Destiny slipped the note into the pocket of her scrubs and left the room. But for the rest of her shift, she couldn't stop thinking about it. She went about her duties, checking charts, answering calls, giving medication, but the note felt heavy against her leg. What could be so urgent? Why couldn't he just say it? Finally, during a short break, she found an empty supply closet. She closed the door and leaned against a shelf. Her hands hesitated for a moment before she reached into her pocket and pulled out the paper. She unfolded it slowly, her breath caught somewhere between curiosity and caution. The handwriting was neat, the words short and direct. "Please come to my room at 12 midnight. It's urgent. Come alone, Jerome. She read it twice, then a third time. Midnight alone. Her first thought was simple. She shouldn't go. It wasn't professional. Meeting a patient in the middle of the night was crossing a line. She could get in trouble, maybe even lose her job. But as she stood there, the sound of distant monitors beeping faintly down the hall, she found herself wondering what could be so important. He had used the word urgent. He didn't seem like the type to play games. She folded the note and slipped it back into her pocket, telling herself she would decide later. For now, she just needed to breathe. What she didn't know was that the decision she made that night would change both of their lives forever. Destiny sat alone in the small break room at the far end of the ward. The fluorescent light above her buzzed softly, and the clock on the wall ticked louder than usual. It was almost midnight. Her scrubs still carried the faint smell of antiseptic, but all she could feel was the folded note in her pocket. She'd read it earlier. Come to my room at 12 midnight. It's urgent. Come alone. Those few words had been sitting on her chest all evening like a stone. She told herself over and over not to go. It wasn't professional. If anyone saw her, no, it wasn't worth it. But each time she thought about ignoring it, she pictured Jerome lying there waiting, wondering why she didn't show up. Jerome wasn't just another patient. She remembered the first time she'd met him, how he didn't ask for anything unnecessary, how he spoke to her like her time mattered. He'd been in that bed for 2 months because of a heart disease that, according to his file, was worsening. He'd once told her he got the condition after surviving a car accident that killed his entire family. She couldn't imagine carrying that kind of grief alone. Her hands rubbed together slowly. She had 20 minutes left before her shift ended. She could just clock out and go home. But what if he really needed her? By 11:50, she was still sitting there, staring at the steam from her untouched cup of tea. Her heart wasn't racing. It was thinking. At 11:57, she pushed the chair back, stood up, and walked out. Her shoes made soft taps on the floor as she made her way down the dim hallway. She passed the sleeping rooms, the glow from the monitors lighting the inside just enough to see outlines. When she reached his door, she hesitated. It was slightly open. She placed her hand on it and pushed slowly. Jerome was awake, sitting against a pile of pillows. He wore a dark sweatshirt over his hospital gown, the sleeves pushed up to his elbows. The lamp beside his bed was on, giving the room a warm tone. When his eyes met hers, they softened. "You came," he said quietly. She closed the door halfway behind her but didn't lock it. "You said it was urgent. What's going on, Jerome?" He motioned to the chair. "Sit, please." She walked over and sat, leaving a little space between them. "If this is about pain, I can call the doctor." "It's not pain," he interrupted gently. "It's something I've been carrying since I got here. I needed the night quiet and you so I could say it." Destiny watched him closely. His hands were resting on his knees, but she could see the tension in his fingers. "I don't want you to think I'm just another man trying to cross a line. I'm not here to waste your time or disrespect you. But I've been living with a clock over my head. The doctors don't say it out loud, but I know my heart won't last much longer." She felt her chest tighten, but she kept her eyes on him. "Jerome, you know, my family died in that car accident 2 years ago. Mother, father, sisters, everyone. I walked away with a broken body and a heart condition that's only getting worse. And since that day, I've thought about one thing. The end of my family's story." Destiny stayed quiet. "I don't want it to end with me. I want a child. I want someone to carry the name, the memories, the bloodline. Not just for me, but for all of them who didn't get the chance to live." He leaned forward slightly, his voice lower now. "I want a child. And when I think about who I would want to be the mother of that child, the only face I see is yours." The air in the room seemed still. Destiny blinked, her lips parting just a little. Jerome, you don't even know me outside of this hospital. I know enough. I know how you listen. I know you care even when you're tired. I know you're the first person in months who's made me feel like I'm not just a patient in a bed. Her throat felt dry. She placed her hands in her lap. Jerome, you're asking me for something huge. I'm 22. I'm not ready to be a mother. I still have things I want to do, goals I haven't reached yet. I can't give you that. Jerome's eyes didn't leave hers. Please, he said softer now, almost breaking. I'm not asking you to marry me. I'm not asking you to give up your life. I'm asking you to give a part of it. I don't have much time, Destiny. You could be the reason a piece of me lives on. Her heart pulled, but she kept her voice steady. Jerome, I can't. I care about you, but I can't. He leaned back slowly, his chest rising and falling in a heavy rhythm. For a moment he didn't speak. His eyes looked down at his hands, then back up, and she could see the fight in them, the unwillingness to let the idea go. I don't want to leave this world without leaving something good behind, he said almost to himself. But I can see you've made up your mind. She stayed quiet. He exhaled slowly, the kind of breath that carries both pain and understanding. Thank you for at least coming here to hear me. That means more than you think. Destiny stood slowly, unsure if her legs felt lighter or heavier. She looked at him one last time before turning toward the door. She didn't know if it was guilt or sadness, but something in her chest hurt. She stepped into the hallway, the dim light making her shadow stretch far ahead. Somewhere deep inside, she knew this conversation wasn't over. The next day felt different. Destiny moved from room to room, but her mind kept going back to Jerome's face the night before. The way he looked when she said no, and the quiet pain in his voice when he pleaded. She tried to keep busy, but whenever she passed his room, she could feel his eyes on her. She didn't go in unless she had to, and when she did, they both kept the conversation short. By evening, the tension in her chest was too heavy to ignore. She found herself standing outside his door long after the other nurses had finished rounds. She knocked gently and stepped in. He was awake, sitting up, his notebook open on his lap. "Hey," she said softly. He looked up and gave a small smile. "I wasn't sure you'd come back in here. I didn't want to leave things like they were last night," she said. "I know it meant a lot to you, but I had to be honest." He nodded slowly. "I respect that, and I'm sorry if I made things harder for you." She walked closer, stopping beside his bed. "You didn't make things harder. You reminded me how short life can be." For a moment, they just looked at each other. The silence saying more than words could. Then Jerome closed the notebook and set it aside. "There's something else I wanted to tell you last night. Another wish. My last one." She frowned slightly. "Jerome, this one isn't about me," he said, shaking his head. "It's about someone else. Someone who still has a chance." She pulled the chair closer and sat. "Go on." "There's a girl in the next room, 17 years old. I've heard the doctors talk about her. She has kidney failure and they haven't found a donor yet." Destiny nodded. "I know who you mean. She tries to joke with the nurses, but you can tell she's scared." "I've been thinking about her a lot," Jerome continued. "If my heart gives out, my kidneys will still be good. If I can't save myself, I can at least save her." Destiny's chest felt heavy. "You want to donate?" "Yes," Jerome said firmly. "But I need you to talk to the doctors. Push them to test me as a match. I don't want to waste time with hospital delays. If I go, I want part of me to keep someone else alive." She leaned back in the chair, her fingers gripping the armrest. That's a big decision, Jerome." "It's the only decision I have left," he said. "You said no to my first wish. I understand, but please don't say no to this." Destiny swallowed hard. You know there's a process, right? There are rules, approvals, consent forms. I know, he said, his eyes locking on hers. That's why I'm asking you. You care. You won't let them bury it in paperwork. She didn't answer right away. She thought of the girl's face, pale under the hospital lights. She thought of Jerome's voice last night, filled with something between hope and desperation. Finally, she said, I can't promise what the hospital will decide, but I promise I'll speak to them. I'll try. His shoulders relaxed slightly. That's all I'm asking. They sat there for a few moments, neither of them looking away. Then Jerome reached for her hand. His touch was warm, steady. Thank you, he said softly, for hearing me, for not just walking away. She didn't pull her hand back. You're welcome. It was quiet again, except for the soft hum of the machines. Destiny could feel the weight of the moment pressing in on them. Then, suddenly, Jerome's expression changed. His hand gripped hers tighter. Jerome, what's wrong? He winced, his other hand going to his chest. It's tight. Can't breathe. Destiny shot up from her chair. Stay with me, she said, her voice urgent now. She pressed the call button, her eyes darting to the monitor as the lines on the screen began to dip and jump. Footsteps pounded in the hallway. The door burst open and 2 nurses rushed in, followed by a doctor. What's his status? Chest pain, dropping vitals? Susan answered quickly, stepping aside as they moved in. Get the crash cart, one nurse yelled. Jerome's eyes found hers through the chaos. His lips moved, struggling to form words. She leaned close, bending so he wouldn't have to strain. Please, he whispered. Don't forget. I won't, she said firmly, her voice breaking. The doctor called out numbers. The nurses worked fast and Destiny stood at the edge of the room, her heart aching in a way she couldn't describe. They attached pads to his chest. Clear. The shock made his body jerk. The monitor flickered, then steadied for a moment before dipping again. Charging again. Clear. Destiny covered her mouth with her hand, forcing herself not to cry. She had to stay composed, even if the room felt like it was closing in. Minutes passed. The team didn't stop. Destiny could only watch. She thought of his first wish, his second, his life before the accident, the family he'd lost, the girl in the next room, and how fragile this moment was. The monitor beeped steadily again, but the lines were weak. We've got a rhythm, the doctor said. Let's move him to ICU. They began wheeling him out, machines rolling alongside. Destiny followed them to the door, then stopped in the hallway as they pushed him away. Her hands were shaking. She leaned against the wall, trying to steady her breathing. The girl's room was just a few doors down. The blinds were partly open, and she could see her lying there, eyes closed, an oxygen tube under her nose. Destiny turned her head back toward the direction they'd taken Jerome. She could still hear the faint squeak of the bed wheels fading down the hall. She pressed her palms together, a silent prayer forming in her mind. But just as she did, a voice came over the hospital intercom, urgent, sharp. Code blue, ICU code blue. Destiny's eyes widened. She didn't move at first. Then she pushed off the wall and started walking fast toward the ICU, not knowing what she was about to see. What happened next left everyone in shock. Dear viewers, Part 2 is coming soon. You will see what happens next. All the surprises and feelings you are waiting for. We will post it very soon. You don't want to miss it when it comes out. Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you see it first. Before you leave, drop your thoughts in the comments section and tell us where you are watching from. Let's see how many of you want to see the ending. What happens next will surprise you.